Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all of my favorite books from 2025. I ended up reading 95 books in 2025 and I picked out 25 favorites. It was very hard to narrow them down. Actually, these were the 25 5-star books that I had this year. Some of them are series, so I technically had more than 5 stars, and then some of these with the series are only 4 stars, but like the whole series counts as a 5-star in my mind. So all of these are 5 stars or at the least 4 stars. I sorted through them and like tried to rank them as best as I could. Some of them it was really hard to decide which one is better than the other one, so some of them are just kind of not necessarily better. I just had to pick one, and so I did. But these are 25 of my favorite books that I read last year, and so this is 25 book recs for you. Even the ones that are lowest on my list are so good. So stay tuned for the whole video, and I hope you get some fantastic book recs from my video. This time I'm actually going to start with my favorite book and work my way down the list, but like I said, all of these books are fantastic 5-star recs, and so I think it is definitely worth it to stay till the end. I do want to preface this video by saying everything that I read, I want to glorify God, so these books are closed door with no spice, and most of them, if not all of them, have no language in them, and I will make sure to preface it if it does have like language. Also, I am a huge mood reader, and I don't really have a favorite genre. I have a lot of favorite genres. I love historical fiction, has become one of my favorites. And then I also read a lot of romance. It's not necessarily one of my favorites, but I do have a lot of romance books that are my favorite books. And then I also love dystopian, and I actually was introduced to dystopian this year and I love it. So you'll see a lot of that in my book recs, but you'll also see some other ones because I am a huge mood reader and I just read whatever. And so hopefully there's at least one book on my list that you will like. But let's get into it. First of all, since we were just talking about dystopian, my favorite read of 2025 is The Hunger Games, and it was really hard to narrow this down between like my first 5 choices. I want to say me and my husband talked it over, and he actually helped me decide which one was my ultimate favorite, and we had to talk it through because I couldn't decide between a few of them. And like some books it was like they were more on my mind. This book I read in March, so I kind of like lost some of that initial excitement for it. But I still love this book so much. Whenever I did read it, I was obsessed with it, and it was the only thing that I talked about. So, The Hunger Games reigns champion on my favorite book of 2025, and then also the whole series is good. My ranking is The Hunger Games, and then Catching Fire, which this one has the most like crazy plot twists, and like my jaw was on the floor. And then Sunrise on the Reaping. I really enjoyed this book as well, and we got to see Haymitch in this book, which was cool. And then Mockingjay, and I actually started liking Mockingjay more after reading Sunrise on the Reaping. I still have yet to do a whole reread of these books. I feel like right after I read a book, I really want to do a reread of it because I forget so much, and so especially with series, I do really want to reread these books, but I also just read them. It's definitely not a priority on my list, but I do want to reread these. I love these books so much. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes does not make my list. I really did not enjoy that book at all, and I feel like it's either you love it or you hate it with Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I just didn't think it was necessary. I also was very spoiled on the ending of the book. I just knew in the back of my mind too much, things that I should not have known, and I feel like it really made me not enjoy it as much. So I wish I could have gone in with a clear mind on that, and I probably would have liked it a lot more. So that one's not a favorite, but these 4 are amazing and I highly recommend. Book 2, and I almost picked this one as my favorite of the year. After some talking with my husband, I decided not to because Hunger Games probably is better in my mind. This one is fresh on my mind. I literally just read this in December, and so it's really fresh on my mind and I love it so much, and that is Between Shades of Grey. My mom is actually borrowing this book right now from me, so I'm not able to show you the physical copy, and some of the books I don't have the physical copy of, so I will try to have an image on the screen of each book that I'm talking about as I'm talking about it. But this book is amazing. It's a World War II historical fiction, I believe. I don't think it's based off a true story, but it obviously does have true historical facts that happened and was taken from people's testimonies of what happened during this time. And it was very sad, very heartbreaking, but very eye-opening, and I really enjoyed this read and like highly recommend it. Number 3, and this is kind of a surprise to me honestly, is Layers by Jenny Lin. I don't know why it's a surprise because I love this book so much. But as I was going through my list, I was saying, do I think this book is better than this book? Did this book create more of a reaction than this book? And so this book was in my top 3 and I was shocked, but this book is so good. This is a Christian fiction and it has 2 different storylines, technically 3 different storylines, but one is like completely blank, and as you read on you understand why. This book is amazing and a must read, especially for Christians. It is amazing and emotional, and the plot twist is just amazing. I love it so much. And this has a beautiful story in it, which is why I think most Christians should read it. Layers by Jenny Lin, amazing. She's such a good writer. Her writing is so beautiful, like you would not have thought this is a debut novel. It's amazing. So definitely recommend, in my top 3. So good. Next we have A Time to Speak by Nadine Brands. I read one of her books last year and was super excited to try more of her books this year. And also, like I said, I was in the mood for dystopian, and that's exactly what this series is. So this is called the Out of Time series, and this series follows a woman named Parvin who lives in a time where they have clocks, and these clocks tell you when you are going to die. And so after book 1, a huge plot twist happens, and that's kind of what's happening in book 2. I don't want to give a spoiler because the first book is amazing as well. I loved this book more than the first book, but they're both amazing. They have great themes in them. I found myself like underlining and highlighting and tabbing so much because it's just so good and has a lot of good like biblical truth in it. I haven't read the 3rd one yet, which is the final one of the trilogy, and I really want to. I actually own it, so that is on the top of my 2026 reading list. I really want to read it. This series is amazing, and I definitely recommend it to those who love that dystopian and they want more of a faith theme and God-centered book. This one is really good. Next up, we have the Powerless trilogy. And I love the Powerless series. Like, it started off with Powerless, and really, honestly, this is just Powerless for this rating. I love the whole series, but Powerless is the best one. Reckless, I really didn't enjoy. Fearless, I really did enjoy, but it is kind of a book that I wouldn't recommend to everyone just because of some of the content in it. It has a big like cheating aspect in it. The whole book is kind of like cheating, and I definitely do not condone that and do not want to recommend that to other people. And so I'm not a big fan of that book for that reason, but it does have really crazy plot twist and is very interesting. But it is a fantasy as well, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I do love this one. It's very easy to read, easy to follow, and has a great storyline in my opinion. Powerless is definitely the best in the series in my opinion, and I love it so much. Next is Every Hour Until Then by Gabrielle Meyer. This is part of the Timeless series. If you watched my last video, I talked about the Timeless series and I read the 6th book of the series. This is the 5th book of the series, and this book was amazing. I read this in one sitting. In like 7 hours I just sat and read this entire book, and it was amazing. The whole plot is like a big mystery, and so that was really fun for me and very engaging and really hard to put down. Like, I literally couldn't. And it's basically taking place where our main character, Catherine, her sister is the last victim of Jack the Ripper. In her one life, that is what's going on, and then in her other life she is trying to like find clues and things to figure out who Jack the Ripper is and to save her sister from being murdered in the past timeline. It's really confusing because the Timeless series follows 2 different timelines, but it is so interesting. And after you read the first 4 books, I definitely don't recommend just starting into this one, even though it is my favorite. You have to read the first 4 books first, then you get to this one, and it is amazing and you're going to love it so much. The whole Timeless series is really good. Some of the books are a bit slower to get into, and then some of them I feel like some people might like a little bit more than others, and some people might really dislike some of the books. just because of the content that's in it. Not that there's anything bad, but like the third book is the Salem witch trials, and some people might not be into reading about the Salem witch trials, which is understandable, and so they might not like that book as much. The second book has a huge love triangle, so you might not like that, and so you might not like that book as much, which was my case. So there are certain things that happen in these books that might be turn-offs for some people, but this book is really good and the whole series is really amazing, and I do highly recommend trying the series out, even if you're not into historical fiction, even if you're not into like time travel type things. Like, it has a little bit of something for everyone. It has great faith themes. It has that time travel for like the fantasy lovers. It has the historical fiction for people who love history, and you will learn a whole lot in these books. I have learned so much just from reading the Timeless series. Gabrielle Meyer always picks such an interesting timeline, and she does so much research in the time period that she does, and so you will get a lot of facts, and then reading the author's note at the end that has all of those true stories and like why she wrote the book and all of her studying, like it's just so interesting. It's so worth it just to read those historical facts at the end. But this book was really, really good, and I highly recommend. Okay, so that's my top 5. I think it might have been my top 6, I don't know. I do need to get through this a little bit quicker because I feel like I'm talking a little bit too much, and I don't want this video to be too long. This might be hard because the next few books are also just as good. Like the top 10 I feel like could easily be my #1 favorite book of the year. It is so hard to choose between them. Let's just move on to The Wishing Game. This is by Meg Schaefer, and if you saw one of my videos, I kind of talked about this because I started reading one of her other books, but I had to DNF it for different content that was in it. I will have that video linked if you want to watch that video. I try to read 7 books in 7 days, which is just crazy. In the middle of Vlogmas, when I'm also trying to film, edit, and upload a video every single day, it was very challenging. I didn't really succeed. This is one of those not completely clean books. It does have some language in it, and it doesn't have any faith themes or anything like that because it's not technically a Christian book. I love this book so much. It made me sob. This might have been the only book that made me like actually cry this year. I feel like it is the only book that made me actually like cry sobbing. It has like fostering and like adoption themes in it, and so that always touches my heart and makes me emotional. But it's just a very interesting book, and I remember like every single detail of this book, which I don't usually do. I actually have a really hard time remembering what I read, even of 5 stars, but I still remember everything about this book. That is a big reason why it is one of my favorites. It is just so good, and it made me cry, which doesn't usually happen. So usually a book that can actually make me cry goes pretty high up on the list. Alright, the next book is The Call of Living Water. This was actually my first ARC read of the year, which an ARC is an advanced reader copy, and so I got to read this book before it was published, and that was super fun, and I love this book so much. It was so good. Okay, so let me just get into it. This is a Christian fiction book, and the writing is really good, and it like hooks you. I could not put this book down. It was so amazing, and it's about this girl who is in a tribe, and a missionary comes and visits the tribe, and it is very emotional. A lot of stuff happens. It actually has like a 2-parter, and so like the first half of the book is really focusing on an unsaved person and like how to get saved, specifically with the woman in this tribe, learning the love of Jesus, learning that there is a God who loves you and cares about you, and it's not your evil tribe chief. There is an actual God who created everything, and he is not just evil and wants to hurt you. He loves you and wants what's best for you. And so that's kind of what you're learning in the first half of the book, and then in the second half of the book it kind of switches and focuses on what a Christian walk should look like. Now, all of this is told in storytelling. Like, this is a fictional story that's going on, but in this fictional story you are learning so much. Like, I was highlighting like crazy, and you will learn so much. Even if you are a more mature Christian, you will still learn so much from this book, and if you are a baby Christian, then you'll really learn a lot from this book, and if you know nothing about God, then you will learn so much from this book. It is just so good, and I think everyone should read it. This is another like great Christian book for people to read. I could talk a lot about this book as well, but I will not go into too much detail because I still have to get through quite a few books. but this book is really good and I obviously highly recommend it. Okay, book number 9. This is another book that has to do with like adoption and fostering and things like that. And it is 2 Weeks by Karen Kingsbury. This is one of those books I can't really remember a whole lot of details about. I just remember it being so good. Next is a series, and this is the Skymore series, I think, or something like that. And this is Authentically Izzy, Positively Penelope, and Loyally Luke. Authentically Izzy I actually read last year, but it is really good and one of my favorites from last year. Now we have Positively Penelope and Loyally Luke. My favorite of the 3 is actually Positively Penelope, probably. It's kind of hard between Positively Penelope and Loyally Luke, because Luke has been my favorite character since the beginning. Since Authentically Izzy, I couldn't wait to get to this book because I just loved Luke as a person. But this book really surprised me because I loved Penelope, and her energy and just her whole character is who I want to be. I wish I was Penelope. I'm not Penelope. I'm more like her significant other. This is like a grumpy sunshine romance, so her love interest is kind of more grumpy, on the grumpy side, and I just love him so much. Luke is also kind of a grumpy person, but his love interest is a princess. Both really good books. I love the series so much and definitely recommend it. This is like a Christian fiction series as well. It doesn't have a whole lot of like actual faith themes in it, but it is a really good, like, just sweet romance books that are clean. So highly recommend these. I enjoyed them a lot. Next is Through Quick and Quinn, and this is by Erica Sherlock, who is like one of my besties. I love her. I met her on Instagram. This is about 2 teens who are learning how to heal from very traumatic experiences, and so there are obviously some trigger warnings in this book because there are some traumatic stuff that happened to these teenagers, and they're trying to find ways to cope. And so some of the ways that they try to cope are not obviously things that we condone. This is an emotional story, probably not the most easy read, but it is very good. It has a lot of like journal entries and like text, so it's very easy to read, which is a great thing in my opinion. If a book is easy to read, then I'll probably read it a lot quicker and like it a lot more than a book that kind of takes a lot of thinking. I just had to hop in real quick. I said that this book doesn't take a lot of thinking, but that's technically not true. The actual reading is pretty simple because, like I said, it's a lot of journals and just like super quick and easy to read. But there are a lot of like deep topics in here, and like this book made me think so much. The whole like premise of this book and like one of the goals of the author is for people to think for themselves. And so there's like, especially in like the second half of the book, I think there's a whole section where they talk about like really controversial topics, and it's really about like raising awareness to that, and like even if we disagree, let's still have the conversation, and then let's agree to disagree, and that's fine. Like, it's saying like, don't just have all these opinions and just keep them to yourself. Let's actually discuss some of these topics in a civil way. So this book isn't like not a thinker. You definitely will be thinking in this book, but I just meant like actually the reading process of it, that doesn't take as much thinking, but there is a lot of thinking in the book, if that makes sense. I just had to clarify that because I didn't want you guys to get the wrong impression. So I really enjoyed this book and I learned a lot from this book. I actually have been wanting to do a reread so much, and as you can see, I actually started a reread, but I wanted some better tabs because the tabs that I have are not like actually meant for reading. And so when you go back through and read them, you have to move the tab to be able to read the words. I was waiting to get actual tabs so that I could tab this book as I reread it. Now that Christmas has come and I got some book tabs for Christmas, I will be able to reread this book, and I'm so excited. Alright, we are almost halfway through and we have 10 minutes left of footage on this camera. We will see if I can do that or not. I am a little worried, but let's just keep going. So next is Through Each Tomorrow, and this is by Gabrielle Meyer. This is book 6 in the series. I actually just talked about this book a lot in the video that I posted last week during this time. I actually was editing for this video today, and I'm actually posting this video today that I'm filming this video. I know, confusing. Anyway, so I talked about this book a lot in that video, so I will let you go ahead and watch that video to get more thoughts behind this. But this is part of the Timeless series, so obviously it's very good. And since re-watching that video as editing it, like, I'm starting to like this book even more. I feel like as I was reading it, I was kind of unsure about it. I love this book. It's probably not my favorite of the Timeless series. It's probably actually my least favorite of the Timeless series. but it's still so amazing. So that just tells you how good the series is. Next we have Misgivings, which is another like Christian romance, I think. This book has a lot of miscommunication in it, so a lot of the problems that happen in this book could be solved if they just talked it out, and that can be a really annoying trope for me. I actually try to avoid reading books like that because it is very annoying for me. However, this book is an exception because I loved this book. I think I read it in one day and it was very quick and easy to read, and I mean, it's not a huge book, but it's not a small book either. So the fact that I got through this pretty quick says a lot. Next we have another book by Karen Kingsbury. This is Truly Madly Deeply, and this book is another really emotional story. It has a character who has cancer, and I feel like there was something else that was human trafficking. So obviously those are some pretty intense trigger warnings, and so this book is not for everyone to read probably, and it's probably a pretty hard read for some people, and me included. There were some times where it was very sad. I've never really read a book with someone who had cancer. It made me think a lot reading it, and like how I would react if I was the one with cancer, or if someone really close to me like my husband had cancer. And so that kind of like, you know, makes you think in ways that you might not want to think, but like I feel like it's kind of important to think about. I don't know. The story obviously deals with some deep topics, but it is told with a lot of grace, and I feel like the way that it all ties together is really good. It has great themes of like God's goodness. It has a lot of like his plan is the best, and no matter what, he is working behind the scenes even when it looks so crazy and like there's no way out. He can always make good come from even the worst of experiences. And so I feel like I really needed to read this at that time, and it just was really helpful to me. And so it's a book that I really enjoyed a lot. Next is The Secret Garden, and I really enjoyed this book. I've never read it before. I kind of like was trying to read more like childhood favorites of other people, and I'm obviously going to continue doing that because I didn't read a lot of classics as a kid. Even though I loved reading, I read a lot of like random stuff. Now I am revisiting and finding some classics, and I'm loving them. The Secret Garden is amazing. I really enjoyed it, and so is Anne of Green Gables. This is another one that I read for the first time this year, and I loved both of these books. They're both amazing. I honestly cannot pick which one I like more, but I cannot wait to finish Anne of Green Gables, like the whole series. I am probably going to do that this year. At least I hope to do that this year. We'll see. Next is Finding Home Again, and I also kind of talk about this book in that video that I was talking about before with Through Each Tomorrow. I read this in the same video, so you can get more of my thoughts on this book in that video as well. Next is Forget Me Not, and this book was really unique and cute. I loved it so much, and I just remember like being so shocked at the plot. Someone else told me that the plot was completely predictable, so I don't know, maybe I'm just super not with the times, but it was really amazing, and it has the like cutest cover, and the whole book is so cute, and I definitely recommend it. Book that I forgot, I don't know where, but somewhere in the list, is Better Than the Movies. This book was really good. This is another just cozy romance that I loved so much, and this book is by Lynn Painter, who uses kind of a lot of language in it, so that's something you should know before just getting into it. But I really enjoyed this like rom-com, I guess. I don't really know if it was funny or not, but this romantic, cozy romance. If I Go is a historical book taking place from the American Revolution, I believe. I actually don't remember. Or was it the Civil War? I don't know. Anyway, it is really good, and Emily Ann's writing is so good. Like, she writes like it could be a classic. Her writing is just so good, and that's what really hooked me on this book and made me love it so much, is like it's such a seasoned author. If I Go is actually part of a series, and I just joined the art team of the next book, Where I Stand. I don't know if you can see that very well. Anyway, the next book in the series of If I Go, and I'm so excited to read it. Put that on your calendar, pre-order for it, or whatever you need to do, because I am so excited for that book. The writing is just so good. And so you have time now to catch up and read If I Go before Where I Stand comes out. And so I highly recommend that you read that series. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I cannot wait to finish the Harry Potter series. I have gone into reading Harry Potter with a Christian perspective. I was hoping to read the whole series last year. That did not happen. So that is like one of my priorities of this year, is reading this, because I know a lot of people who have never read Harry Potter before, and so my plan is to read this from a Christian lens and see what I think of it, basically. That's basically the gist of it. So I really did enjoy the first book a lot. Obviously, it's in my top 25 books of 2025. The next book is Fifth Fjord, and I read this book actually in another video, and so I will link it if I remember which video that's in. And this is a fantasy book that kind of is like a mashup of like dragons and like dragon things with Harry Potter, because there is a school, and so it is very interesting. There's like an enemies to lovers in the book, but it's very, very slow burn, and it's just really fun. A great like fantasy book for those who don't really love fantasy, and it's also part of a series, so I can't wait to continue and see what happens next, because we got a huge cliffhanger at the end of that book. But it was really fun, and yeah, I really enjoyed that book. Next we have The Summer I Turned Pretty series. I read this in the summertime, and it was a very quick and easy read. The first and the third book specifically are really good. The second book I didn't really enjoy as much, and I feel like a big part of that is I went straight from the first book to the third book thinking that the third book was the second book, and then realizing it actually was the third book, and so I kind of got spoiled on a lot of what happened in the second book, and I just really wanted to rush through it to get to the third book, and I feel like that's why I didn't like it as much. But I did enjoy this series a lot. This is a very dysfunctional series. This is not a Christian series, and it does have language. It has things like alcohol in it. There's not actual spice scenes, but it does kind of like talk about things and hint at things. I would be aware of that before jumping right into the series, but I did like it a lot, and it was a great like summer read. Next is The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley by Courtney Walsh. I really enjoyed this book. This book is like almost like a self-help book written in a fantasy, because the main character Isadora is trying to prove this article wrong, and it's an article that says like 10 steps on how to have a happy life or something like that. And so it says things like smile and like go outside and make friends and whatever it says. I actually don't really remember all the things, but this book was really good for me because I related so much to Isadora. And like as I was reading it, I was like, wow, is this me? Like, are they talking about me? And it helped me realize how much of an unhappy person that I was, and that it was my fault that I was living a miserable life. I learned from Isadora, and I was able to get like a lot of healing from my emotions and like how I felt, because I literally was living a miserable life and didn't really realize it. Like I was always acting miserable, but I didn't really realize it. In my final book, this was really hard to choose from because there was obviously a lot more great books that I read this year, and trying to decide on that last final spot for 25 was so hard. This was actually my favorite book of January, The Frozen River, and so I almost didn't pick this, but I was like, this has to be on the list. It was my favorite from January. I feel like the reason why I was kind of hesitant to put it on my favorites list is because I don't remember it, because it literally was one of the first reads I read in January. So I don't really remember a lot about it. This is a historical fiction that is like based on a true story, so I don't know if you still call that a historical fiction, but it was really good. I do remember that. I do remember it being my favorite of January, and I did enjoy it. I just don't really remember a lot of the details of the book. I think I did read this book in a vlog on my channel last year, so I will try to link that as well for you to read. I actually listened to this book a lot more than I read it, and I enjoyed the audiobook a lot better than I did enjoy like actually reading it. And so I would recommend the audiobook of that version. It's really good. So those are my top 25 books of 2025. I had a lot of fun reading these books and can't wait to like reread some of these favorites, maybe even this year. And I can't wait to see what else I read this year, to see like what becomes my 2026 favorite books. This is becoming one of my like favorite videos to film, just to talk about all of my favorite books. All of these books are really amazing, and I hope you got some great book recs from them. I'm really excited for other videos coming up soon. As you can see behind me, my book blanket is coming together. I've been working so hard on it. I only have 2 rows to put together now. All of my squares are completed. Last minute I decided to make 4 new squares, and so that's why it's kind of taken a bit longer. I actually was hoping my book blanket video would be the first video of this year. This video that you're watching right now isn't even the first video of the year because it's been kind of hard to like get content ready since all of the holidays and things. But stay tuned for next week's video where I talk a little bit more about this book blanket and I get to show you some of what I do to make my book blanket. This was my first time making a blanket like this, so I'm really excited to talk about it, and I don't want to talk about it too much in this video because that is for next week, but I'm really excited. So stay tuned for that and subscribe if you haven't already so that you can see more book content, crochet content, and just Christian life content. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!